If I give you the API number, will that help you or help me get to a department who can tell me when they're going to connect that pipeline prior to them fracking and flowing back and into our air shed? I'm going to be living a few blocks away.
Well, they're not required to run a pipeline. Oh, before they frack it.
I'm sorry, what were you saying? I missed that.
You're not required to run a pipeline to the well before they frack it.
Well, are they going to flow back right after they frack, or can they wait till the pipeline's connected before they flow back?
Well, I would assume they'll flow back shortly after they frack it. Flow back into tanks.
But those are open tanks, and we've seen the white clouds wafting from it, and there was a 21-year-old worker in Colorado that died from, he worked the flowback jobs, and he was living on site in a trailer, and they found him dead. And the autopsy found that he had hydrocarbon poisoning, and there's no hydrogen sulfide. That was ruled out. So I'm really afraid to have this flowback happening a few blocks from my house by my family. I'm sorry, sir, are you still there?
I don't quite know for sure how to answer that, because they've been fracking and flowing back wells for years.
But not in residential areas. I mean, if they have been happening in residential areas, people...
We don't have any rules regulating, you know, the rules we have that say they can flow back the well. We don't have any rules limiting them to when or based on where the wells are located.
So isn't the TCEQ supposed to be able to detect when those levels become unhealthy? So is that...
That would be a question to ask the TCEQ.
So I pretty much have to wait till they're flowing back and it's happening, and if TCEQ can come out and take the readings and then they send it to the lab, and 6 weeks later I can find out if my family was exposed. That just doesn't sound too comforting. Well, I was told that the pipeline was approved. Who could tell me when the pipeline's going to be installed? Hello?
Who told you the pipeline was approved?
Roger Venerable. He is with the city of Arlington. He's Assistant Director of Community Development and Planning.
Then
I mean, if I give you an API number, can you tell me the status of the pipeline?
I'll see what I can come up with.
Mr. Vanderworth, I appreciate that.
Let's see, I think you gave me the API number yesterday.
I can repeat it.
I was out of the office yesterday. That's why you didn't get a call back from me sooner.
Okay, that's okay. I was at that Dallas gas drilling meeting. They're trying to tighten up or try to get a gas drilling ordinance in place, and I'm trying to tell them where Arlington's gone wrong by letting the flowback vent into open tanks. Is there such a thing as venting into a closed tank, or does that scientifically not allow because of a vacuum? Because, you know, just you can't flow into something closed.
Well, no, they can't flow into something that's completely closed, because it would fill up and, you know, cause a problem. They flow back into frac tanks that have a small opening on one end that, you know, they'd have to let the pressure off of it.
Can they put scrubbers on some of those?
They probably could, yes.
I don't know why they don't. We've got videos of these white clouds coming out of those tanks, and somebody got close enough to take pictures and her heart palpitated for 3 days. Okay, the API number is 439-35204.
Okay, hang on just a second.
okay. I'm just playing with my bird.
Looking, I just want to let you know.
I'm petting my bird. I got an African gray Congo, and she's hacking up a love ball for me right now.
Oh boy.
Isn't that?
Sounds enjoyable.
It's warm and moist. They're easy to step on and not know about them until they start to chill off a little bit.
What I've done, I've pulled up our mapping system.
You still there?
Yes.
Okay.
I pulled up our mapping system, and it shows the location for this well is basically Highway 180 and South Collins Street.
No, this would be North Collins. That was 439-35204?
Yeah,
Can
in
you-
Arlington
Yeah, but
and south of Sanford Street.
yeah, that is south of Sanford. Then that would be it.
Okay. I'm showing two permitted pipelines in the area. One's north of the location, about a mile, and the other one goes into another pad.
That would be the GM pad.
Well, it's west of the location, probably
Oh, okay.
a mile or so. A flow line from this location to either one of those pipelines wouldn't require a permit, so from us anyway. So I couldn't tell you when, they may lay a pipeline.
So if they flow back and they can't put the well on production, they just shut it in until they get the pipeline? Is that how that's going to happen?
Yes.
So if they've drilled 3 wells, technically, are they supposed to be fracking all 3 wells, or is that their choice?
That's their choice.
Do you think economically they're going to go ahead and try to do all 3 at once so to, reduce costs?
I would suspect so, yes.
Okay, because I just wanted to try to know how long to plan to try to get my family away. I can't really afford a hotel for a month. I mean, how long do you think it'd take to frack and flow back 3 wells?
Oh gosh, it could vary from a week a well to 2 weeks a well, maybe even more. It just depends on how many stages they have.
How do we find out how many stages they plan to do? Is that something they have to report to the Railroad Commission?
No. They report how many stages they've done on their completion papers, but they don't have to report it to us before.
Oh, okay. Do you... They won't ever frack 2 at the same time, right? I just want to make sure that I can plan this. I'm going to have to allow 1 to 2 weeks for each well. So that could be 3 to 6 weeks altogether, because they do them one at a time. They don't ever do them all at the same time, right?
I don't know for sure about that. If they could do one well.
I mean, I guess my question is, would they frack 1 well and while it's flowing back, start to frack the other well?
They probably could, yeah.
Have you ever heard of them doing that?
I'm trying to remember.
Because the only reason I think they wouldn't do that is because my experience from seeing flowback sites is that there's hardly anybody around, maybe just one person. It's for some reason they clear out of Dodge. I mean, I know they don't want to pay any extra employees that aren't needed, but for me, I'm thinking maybe it's the fear factor of being by all those VOCs. So that would be good. If they can frack and flow back while they're working on the second well, that might cut 3 weeks. So I might not be looking at 6 weeks altogether.
I'm pretty sure that they would probably frack 1 well, get it completely done, and then go to the next well.
You mean frack, completely flow it back, and then frack, completely flow it back?
Yes, ma'am.
How long does it take to flow back?
Oh, I really don't asked to, to put down a line to sell.
Because yesterday I attended the Dallas frac meeting, and Ed Ireland said it could take up to 45 days for a well to flow back, but that's all trucked off. So I'm thinking, wow, they're going to take 45 days to flow back each well? So maybe I took his wording out of context. I don't know. He just said that when you frack a well, only half comes up, and that takes 45 days, and that's all trucked off.
I'm sorry, who said that?
Ed Ireland, he's with the Barnett Shale Education Council.
Hey.
He's got a PhD, but in economics. So, I mean, I don't know why they're using
He probably put the information together. I worked in the oil business in industry for 18 years before I went to work for the commission, and we fracked wells, but it wasn't nearly on the scale that they fracked these Barnett Shale wells. It would we'd flow them back for 3 or 4 days, and then they'd be ready to put online. We'd usually shut them in and run the line to the well and get all the equipment set up.
Well, I think what Ed Ireland was talking about was maybe that which the trucks come and haul off every day, from the storage tanks, that the actual chemical-laden water that so many people are afraid of, as opposed to the produced water that comes up naturally. He's saying that maybe for 45 days, that's when you're worried about that kind of water. So thank you for helping me sort through that. Okay, well, I think you were going to find something out and let me know later. Is that what you were going to do?
I'm sorry, find out what?
At the beginning of the conversation, I gave you my cell phone number. I'm trying to remember what you were going to check something out and call me back. I gave you an API number, and then pretty much you said that even though it's permitted, we don't know when they're going to put the pipeline in. And that it's not required by law for them to have the pipeline in?
Right.
Okay, so pretty much, even though the pipeline's been approved, no one knows the date it's going to be installed?
Well, it sounds like the city of Arlington has a regulation, requiring the pipeline be permitted. And in this particular instance, it sounds like this is what we refer to as a gathering line or a flow line, and it is not regulated is not permitted. It's regulated by us, but it's not permitted by us, so they don't have to tell us when they're going to lay the line or anything.
Yeah, and
But if the city of Arlington requires them to permit a line like this, they would probably have the information as to when it would be done.
Well, then I'll go ahead and check with them. I looked at their ordinance, and they do not have a requirement for a green completion. And I asked why it was not mandated in their ordinance, and they said it's because it's industry standard that they do. And Chesapeake brags that they do, for the majority of the time, do green completions. So we just don't have anything legally to stop them from not doing a green completion. But I appreciate your time. Thank you for clearing some things up for me.